Throughout the colonies, daily battles with the committees are causing royal officials great distress. In Massachusetts, Chief Justice Thomas Hutchinson fears that his beloved province is heading for mob rule. He secretly writes to a friend in the British Parliament that firm measures are needed from England. It is a letter that will come back to haunt him.
A thirst for liberty seems to be the ruling passion of the present age. This restless spirit can cause anarchy and confusion unless some external power restrains it. I've always known that bringing peace and good order to Massachusetts would involve some pain. Perhaps there must be an abridgment of our English liberties for the good of the colony.
The letter confirms what the British government is already thinking. Order must be restored in Massachusetts. In what they consider merely a police action, they send a brigade of troops to Boston to quell the rioters and arrest the ringleaders.
Sending troops to Boston is asking for trouble. You are putting young soldiers, who are by nature insolent, in the midst of a people who consider themselves threatened and oppressed. It's like setting up a blacksmith's forge in a magazine of gunpowder.
March 5th, 1770. An angry crowd begins throwing snowballs at British soldiers. The soldiers fire back, and 5 Bostonians are killed. Paul Revere produces a wildly inaccurate illustration of the event. In his version, soldiers are shooting completely innocent civilians. The incident becomes known as the Boston Massacre. It galvanizes people throughout the colonies. In England, Benjamin Franklin's love affair with the mother country is beginning to turn sour. He was drawn to its sophistication and culture, but is starting to see the ugly realities of its social order.
I recently took a tour of Ireland and Scotland. In those countries, there are a small number of noblemen and gentlemen living in the highest opulence, while the bulk of the people, their tenants, live in the most sordid wretchedness. While traveling, I often thought of the happiness of New England, where every man owns some land, has a vote, and lives in a tidy, warm house with plenty of food and fuel, and has sturdy clothes from head to foot. Long may we continue in this condition.
The more he lived in England, the more intimate he became with Parliament and with the whole system. He saw very stupid people put in power. He saw arrogance. He saw discrepancy between the rich and the poor. He saw all kinds of wrong things about England that he hadn't noticed at the beginning.
The dispute is dragging on year after year. It becomes clear that the British attempt to tax is not working. Neither side has really backed down. Benjamin Franklin sees that this war of words can easily slip into open conflict. He is looking for a way to calm passions on both sides. In December of 1772, an astonishing packet of letters falls into his hands. Among them is the very one written by Thomas Hutchinson several years earlier to a member of Parliament. Franklin knows that the British have been relying on advice from Hutchinson. In fact, they have just appointed him Royal Governor of Massachusetts. He reads the letters in a fury, convinced that the ministry has been disastrously misled.
It is better to submit to some abridgment of our English liberties than to break off our connection with our protector, England. One mischievous man is the cause of all our troubles. This coward trades the liberties of his native country for jobs and profit.
Franklin realizes that if these letters were to become public in Massachusetts, the radicals would shift the blame for the events of the past decade away from Parliament and lay it at the feet of Hutchinson himself.
Let's make him, like the scapegoats of old, carry into the wilderness all the bad feeling that he's stirred up between our two countries.
He makes a momentous decision. He sends the damning letters to the Boston radicals.
Franklin was a very wily character. He knew they would be published, though he sent them over saying, don't publish them. He was deliberately sacrificing Hutchinson in order to stabilize the situation and calm the uproar. The idea being that if you pinned the whole thing on him, that it was Hutchinson who had been instigating all of this thing, there would be a cooling off period, and the English government would be able to work out some kind of accommodation.
Publication of the letters causes a sensation. The Massachusetts legislature sends a petition to London demanding Hutchinson's removal. The petition takes 6 weeks to cross the ocean. In the meantime, the king is beginning to support the idea of reining in the colonies. He writes to the Prime Minister,
I am very fond of the measures you are taking with the end of bringing the Americans to their duty. I do not, however, want to drive them to despair, only to submission.